God decided to paint a masterpiece. He set up a canvas along with brushes and jars filled with all the colors of the rainbow. The colors were bright and brilliant and bold. There were many colors he used to work on his masterpiece. The color of red stands for somebody special, the color of green for another, and so on. Each color he used was different, with various amounts of paint, depending on what was needed to make the biggest difference. Sometimes when God creates a masterpiece, he uses a specific color. He opens the jar, dabs on a little, and then he decides he's done with that color, and he puts the lid back on. This doesn't mean he won't use that color again, but for the moment, he is done with that specific color, and he continues on with another color for his masterpiece. I would like to imagine that as I enter into heaven, God said he's been expecting me and invites me to walk with him to show me the masterpiece he'd been working on. As we walked together down the long hallway, I noticed that there were 3 great beautiful doors. As I asked the Lord what was behind the first door, he stops, and with tears in his eyes, he opens it. As I looked into the great room, I noticed there were many blank canvases. I asked the Lord why they were blank, and with sadness in his voice, God explains that these were the masterpieces he never got a chance to paint because people would not let him in to love them and work in their lives. I asked the Lord, "Is my masterpiece in this room?" And with a smile, he says, "No, my son. Yours is in another room." We left the room and continued down the hallway. As we approached the second door, I again asked the Lord, "What was in this room?" And with tear-filled eyes, he opened the door, and there were many canvases. This time, I could see all the bright colors that God used on his masterpiece, but noticed they were only half finished. I asked the Lord why, and he tells me these were the masterpieces that he started to work on, but never got the chance to finish. The Lord knows I do not understand, and sadly he explains that these were some of his masterpieces, the ones that were just plain Christian and didn't trust him and allow him into their lives. They were unfinished masterpieces where God was not given the chance to use more colors to complete his work. I had tears in my eyes because the canvases looked as if they could be so beautiful. I again asked the Lord, "Is my masterpiece in this room?" The Lord smiled and said, "No, my son, your masterpiece is not here. Let's go to the next room." We continued down the long hallway and arrived at the third door, and the Lord asked me, "Are you ready to see my masterpiece? The work you allowed me to paint?" By this time, I was very excited and anxious and really wanted to see God's masterpiece. The Lord takes me by the hand and opens the third door. As I looked into the room, I could see all the bright and wonderful colors that were blinding with warmth and love that filled the room. There were countless masterpieces in every shape and every size, all of them amazing. As I looked at them in awe, God stops me at one masterpiece in particular that was covered with a large white cloth. The Lord said that because I was willing to trust him and serve him and allow him into my life, he completed another masterpiece. As he raised the cover, he says with a loving smile, "Job well done, my good and faithful servant." As I stood in awe of the Lord's masterpiece, I realized it was a beautiful picture of Jesus Christ. I fell to my knees. God painted Jesus in me. Will you allow God to paint a masterpiece in you, or will your canvas be half finished or woefully blank with no color at all?